Okay. Hey, Juice.
Say hi, Juice.
So, pinning. So I'm here with Cherish. Days before the big election. I thought I'd come up to Harlem and check in, see what's going on. So just introduce yourself for those who don't know you, and if you want to mention, your organization.
Okay. Hi, my name is Cherish. I'm 18 years old. I'm from Harlem, New York City, born and bred. I attend Spelman College. I'm a freshman there. I am what people consider an activist. I spent a lot of my summer doing that. I started my own organization. We are called the Descendants. We haven't been doing a lot of stuff lately, but we'll get into that. And I have a dog named Juice. Hi, Juice. That's about it. That's all I got.
That's all you got.
Voting? Can we talk about voting?
Yeah, how do you feel this Tuesday?
Well, I have stories. So, I know I'm young, so in 2008 I was 6, and that sounds crazy, but in 2008 I was 6, and my mother is now 60. So my mother had me at 42. So my mother was grown, my mother was grown, and it was a thing, and she was very much so a Black power woman. From a young age, you gonna know where you came from, you gonna know, and I did. And Obama ran for president, and I was 6, and I was like, oh my God, you have to! I was the most excited little political kid you've ever seen. I was standing outside of this same building with taped together, the white printer paper. I taped together 5 of them, and I wrote Obama's name, and I was like, go vote. And it makes me actually very emotional to talk about, because it was such a prideful moment. I think it was the first time I really felt like real Black joy, oh my God, we are in the White House. And I remember when my mom went to go vote, she took me with her, and she let me cross off his name, because that was back when it was still just paper, and there were no other options. And she let me cross off his name, and we put in the ballot together. Seeing him win was seeing him win as president was a win for Black people. It was of course now I have feelings about him, even though I love him, and I'm so grateful for that. In the second election, it was also let's go, I was very excited. And then I was 14, and I was a freshman in high school. And this election came, and I remember sitting on the floor in my living room with a blanket in front of my big TV, no way, there's no way this is gonna happen right now. I fell asleep, and I don't know if you ever watched American Horror Story, but season, whatever that is, I think it's 8, where she's that, the horror that I felt when I woke up. I was it felt like I was living in a nightmare. I was nah, it's not real. I went to school, everybody was except this one girl. But that one girl has since learned to not be racist. That actually ended up being a New York Times story that I was in.
Really?
Yeah, she's in it as well. Very interesting, actually. If you read the articles, actually that's a long story.
Okay.
I'm not going to get into that.
Okay, we'll look for that.
We'll get into that one. But,
okay.
So this election is my first time legally being able to vote. I turned 18 in May. Taurus gang. And it's holy fuck, this is, I get to do this now. And it's very exciting. But, my partner and I all often speak about, because we've been watching the debates together, this is horrifying. And he'll, really sit and watch and ponder. And I'm at this point, I'm no longer... After 2016, there's not much that you can throw at me that's going to make me raise my eyebrows. I learned what slavery was when I had to be 4. I learned the history of our people when I was very young. I learned who Emmett Till was when I was 10. I saw his face for the first time, and my life changed after that. I was a very angry 10-year-old. I argued with everyone I could, and I still argue with everyone I can. But in a healthy, debateful, you're ignorant, and I'm gonna make you not ignorant way, So this election has kind of just been surreal, because regardless to who wins, racism is still gonna run rampant. And regardless of who wins, it's still gonna be a white, cis, kind of pedophilic, whatever, male in office. So it's not it's really the lesser of two evils. But even that, I don't think is the right term. We often, I've heard a lot of people say, please don't feel forced to have to choose between these two white men. But the reality of the situation is you have to. The reality of the situation is, no matter how strongly we oppose their leadership, this country, how the country is run, capitalism, the America being built off of the backs of black people, no matter how much that we feel that, there are always going to be people on his side. And this summer kind of like, it was a lot. And then I got to the end of the summer and I had to sit back and be like, there are people dedicated to their hate. There are people that are going to live and die racist and live and die in their privilege. Last night, I was watching The Wolf of Wall Street. And it was like, at the end, you know, like, this nigga was a felon. Like, this nigga, a literal convicted felon. He took in money laundering on massive scales. He was seeing money that you can't even fathom seeing. And then I looked him up online, as we do when a movie's good. And then I'm like, holy fuck, this is his Twitter. And I can go and I can DM him or interact with him on Twitter. And it's like, racism hasn't just changed. Racism has not changed. It just looks different. Because now, if he was a black man, he wouldn't have gotten that far in the first place. They would have stopped him after he touched his first couple thousand. They would have stopped him. There would have been no story because the story would have ceased to exist. And in this country, white cis male is the normalcy. It is the standard. And anything that isn't that is considered unfortunate for you. And that is why it's almost hard to see their privilege as a privilege to them. Because it's not even a privilege, it's just like, what do you mean? This is how you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be white, male, and wealthy. And that's just, not the reality of the situation is, and their ignorance will one day catch up with them. And I've had to really, really teach myself that. I really had to teach myself I cannot spend my life being angry about the wealthy white men that are in control of the 1%, because I'm going to die angry at men who don't give a fuck about me and never will. And it doesn't matter what I do, say, or try to plead to their humanity. They don't care, and I can't make them care. But what I can do is I can actively give my energy into my community. I can actively hold my elected officials and my local government accountable. I can actively hold, not actively, but I can hold the president accountable to the things he said, but I first have to elect him. So that's the whole thing. It's holding the people accountable. Because I'm not going to sit here and try to fucking reason with Trump. I need you to stop saying these things because it's influencing. I need you to condemn these people. I need you to make sure Kyle Rittenhouse never sees the light of day again. I can't do that because it's not what they want to do. And I can't make someone who has enough money to live their life and their children's life off with. I'm reading Into the Wild right now. Well, I'm not reading, I'm listening to it actually. Paid for an audiobook thing, And, right? I feel like I know I'm getting older because I'm so excited to listen to my audiobook. Who needs cartoons or music? And I'm reading Into the Wild. Well, I'm listening to Into the Wild again. And Into the Wild has always been one of my favorite stories in its tragic beauty of this, this young white man who graduated from college and wanted to just live away from capitalism. And me now being 18 and reading this, I see it from a different perspective of, although it is beautiful in its sad, tragic way, it is also a privilege that he had to have his parents set him up well enough in life so that he could get the education he needed to say, I don't want to continue to contribute to the horror white people have placed on the world, and I want to actively not participate in it, and I actively want to seek the deeper things in life, so therefore I'm going to rid myself of all earthly belongings and live with one with the land. And although it is beautiful and admirable, and I would love to sit and talk to him, if he was a black man, his story wouldn't have even gotten that far. There's so many times he stopped or hitchhiked or went here or put a thumb up or got stopped by a park ranger that wouldn't have gone like that if he was black or not white. And there's a privilege that comes with being able to just let everything you've ever had go. I can't I would love to rid myself of capitalism. I would love to smash my phone in the mountains and climb through and learn how to eat the fruits and shit. And I can't. I have a mother who needs me, who I have to take care of. I have a father who needs me, who I have to be there for. I have a dog now because my grandmother died, and I have a dog that needs...
Your grandmother passed?
Not recently. I wasn't that close to her.
Oh.
My Nana, who's 101.
Your other grandmother. Okay, that was...
She's chilling. She's a cat lady.
Yeah, see, that's the one I said, Dan.
That's my Nana.
Yeah.
That's my Nana.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. And...
By the way, my battery is running low, shockingly, of course, by the time I got here.
But yeah.
Just wanted you to know. But and we have a bunch of people on. Hey, Kenya. So, it's the Stoop Story super fan. Yeah, no, this is, you have so much passion, and, I've been wanting, we've been trying to get together
for quite some
since,
time.
I remember you leading the group down to D.C. with the Descendants, and it was, so inspiring.
Oh, my God, thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially, you're young and powerful, man. So in terms of why does it, well, first of all, what is it about the word activist that you aren't sure about? Because you started to say before, and I want to, hey, Madison.
Hi, Madison. So, people like to call me an activist because I know how to speak well, because I'm a trained theater actor, and because I'm intelligent, because I've had the privilege of my mother putting me in schools where I flourished, and because I have a passion for my people, the way any educated black person does, or the way any black person who really sees the full picture is. My mother's been angry for quite some time. My aunts were angry. My mother was born in 1960 in Harlem. My grandmother was born in 1919 in Georgia. I feel like Spirit has chosen me for a reason, but to call myself an activist at this point in time is to really almost say Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. weren't. If I'm an activist because I decided to protest for one summer, because I had the time to do that, and because I used my voice to do that publicly instead of on my phone, that doesn't make me an activist. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X are considered activists because they gave their literal lives to a fight that they knew needed them. And I have not yet put myself in that place. Now, in a couple years, you might, when I'm in Cuba, you might, But no, for real, Angela Davis made a sacrifice of having to get rid of all the life that she knew to save herself, because she dedicated herself to speaking up against the men. Not only speaking up, but influencing the masses and speaking as an educated black woman with a fro who couldn't tell nobody could tell her nothing. That is a sacrifice you have to make. What I did wasn't so much a sacrifice. Yeah, sure, my feet hurt. Yeah, sure, I was tired. Yeah, sure, I gave up getting to hang out with my friends, even though it was COVID. Yeah, sure, I would have rather been doing other things at some points. But me giving myself for one summer doesn't make me an activist. It makes me angry, and it makes me black, and it makes me proud to be that. I'm not proud to be angry, but proud to be black. But it doesn't quite make me an activist.
Well, so what's next for you?
So that's the whole thing. I've taken this time. I had to take a step back. I'm not going to keep going out to protest and whatnot. Not feeling it the way that I should. Seeing that the activist scene in New York City is a scene in New York City. Do you fucking understand how crazy that is? The stakes that are really high stakes throughout the country, you don't see them fucking arguing in Louisville because they will die. If you in Kentucky right now, you real life are family, and you're family because you're black, and because you know that they'll kill one of you and they'll kill me like it's not a question too. We have a privilege living in New York City and being where it's liberal enough to not ever really face the harsh consequences of racism. Yeah, sure, they will lock us up and maybe arrest people that they shouldn't, but they're gonna let you go in a couple of hours. Yes, they pulled that stunt with Derek. Absolutely not okay. It was horrible. And it was traumatizing for a black man.
Yeah.
But these are things that are like, we are not facing the real consequences. Malcolm X's house got burned down by the KKK on like more than once. His father had to relocate their family. Don't you run after that squirrel. His father had to relocate their entire family to not be murdered for speaking up for his people. You see, there's a black squirrel over there. Down, boy, down.
Mm-hmm.
And I just haven't made those sacrifices yet. And I have to know that when I'm ready to make that sacrifice, my ego isn't speaking for me. And I have to know that I'm speaking from the fully educated point of view. Because like I said, yes, I am a black woman. Yes, both of my parents are black. But I present as racially ambiguous. And I'm never going to face the butt of racism and the butt of racism the way that my friends do. The way that my parents do. And although that doesn't make me any less black, that doesn't take away from that. It makes me have to gain a full perspective before I try to speak for everybody else. And I had conversations with friends, and there are actually light-skinned black women, but who have very coarse skin and who have very black features. And I heard their stories, and they weren't horror stories, but it's the subtle things. And it's the things that they've had to deal with all of their life. That one, because I live in New York City and I've lived here my whole life, I haven't had to. But also something I've never experienced, even when I was in certain white spaces. I've never had to respect white people enough to fear them. Because I went to black public schools that were great schools. I went to a black high school. Went to black theater programs in Harlem by black teachers for black children. So my perspective has to be full circle before I try to preach black liberation to the Midwest. Because if I don't understand your Midwest or your Southern struggles except past the book knowledge, then am I really helping you? Am I doing the same thing a white person does when they come in and try to save you? My perspective has to be full circle before I try to bring my message national. My spirit has to be in the right place, and I have to know how to be able to converse with everyone. I'm learning nonviolent communication. And it's a book. It's called Nonviolent Communication. It's a beautiful book, and it's a great book. I do believe, personally, that the author says something where he's like, until we learn how to be empathetic and compassionate to everyone, we will not learn, true peace. And I completely agree. But when we think of things like, okay, he used an example how he went to the Middle East and how they were all angry at him for what America was doing, and how he just sat back and he listened to these people and not these people, but like the people in the room and their stories and like their horrific stories of what they've been going through. And it was cool, but it was also like, you have a privilege as a cis white man being able to just be compassionate to everyone.
It's Marshall Rosenberg, right? Marshall Rosenberg.
I think,
right?
Yes. I can't do that.
Yeah.
There are black children dying every day at the hands of white people, and I'm not going to turn around and find it in me to be compassionate to you. I can be compassionate to your ignorance, but I can't be compassionate to you. Because we live in a day and age in which there's really no excuse to be ignorant. Between technology, between social media, not to say it's beneficial, because you can also be on social media and technology your whole life and still gain the wrong perspective, because there's enough of it online as well. So it's really just about full-fledging my circle. Like, I'm still 18, and although I have this passion and this fire, I want to make sure before I put myself out there as an activist, or I label myself that, I know where I'm going with this. Because the journey and the steps to black liberation are not going to come through trying to appeal to our oppressor. There's a video of the girl who went viral, and she was like, I'm not going to have you try to be my savior and my oppressor at once. Yes, baby. She did that. She read them. And that's the truth. I can't expect to appease to a system that was specifically designed off of our enslavement. The voting system that is in place was literally created off of the southern states wanting representation for their slave population, but the slaves weren't considered people, so you had to consider them So you had to consider each man 3/5 of a person to get representation. So I'm not going to try to appease the system that was built for a white man, that was built off of black people, to work for me. It's irrational. And I know the steps to black liberation take a lot of sacrifice that Malcolm X, that Martin Luther King Jr. willing to make, that Angela Davis made. And when I'm ready to make those sacrifices, and when I know what my sacrifice is going to look like, that's when I'll be ready. That's when I'll have a full-fledged answer. Until then, I just know that this theater kid wants to act and direct and sing and dance. And I want to keep spreading my message, and I want to keep educating myself and my peers and working on myself so I can give my full self to the things that I do.
Beautiful. That was awesome. You're welcome. My battery's almost out, but I just want to say, do you have a message to other young voters out there, first-time voters, anybody just that will get them to the polls?
The privilege that we have to vote is something that people died to give us. The privilege that we have to read, that shouldn't be a privilege, but it is, was given to us by people who lost their lives so we could have that. People were murdered for the sole purpose of us being able to now vote. So for us to not use a power that was granted to us by our ancestors who made the sacrifices to see black liberation in its shape, this is the sacrifices that were made so black liberation could come. Us being able to vote is a form of active black liberation, even in their white system. But sometimes you do have to work the system to make your way through it. So go vote. I'll be there on Thursday. I mean
Tuesday.
Yes.
Tuesday.
That thing. The third.
You know, the third. Awesome. Thanks for talking to us, Cherish. And Juice. Kiss. All right. Be good. Be safe. Peace out.